Welcome to the latest episode of Greece Chats with Tony Kariotis. I have with me Greek entrepreneur. What's up, Nikitas?
What's up, Tony? Thanks for having me here in your studio. Let's do this.
Let's do this. I probably should have said your last name with it too. Why don't you just say it?
It's fine. Tsoukales.
Tsoukales. Nikitas Tsoukales. And if you can tell, Kalimian name.
Kalimian name. We rule the world, baby.
We do. Us Kalims, we multiply.
Yes, we do.
Might not be a lot of us in the Boston area, but we do multiply. Especially if you go south to Florida. They're all there.
That's amateur hour. Here, this is where it's at. Here in Boston. This is where the takeover is.
Exactly. All right, let's just jump right into it. Why don't you tell my listeners, viewers, who is Nikitas?
Nikitas is similar to you, I guess. We're 40-year-old young. Grew up in West Roxbury, Rosendale area. West Roxbury, Greater Rosendale of Massachusetts. And big shout out to Nikitas, whoop whoop. Mm-hmm. And I grew up around here. Graduated high school in Norwood. I got I spent a good amount of time in New York. I was there for 4 years. Made it back in my adult ages to Boston, and I got 2 kids, Nicholas and Noah. And I'm married, and we live in Westwood, and I own a couple of businesses, and I'm just here, man, just hanging out with you.
Just living the dream.
Yeah, it's a beautiful dream. Life is beautiful.
So you said you got a few businesses. Why don't you, let's just jump right into it. Tell me about them.
So I started about 15 years ago a company that helped people with credit. So I would say that was my first baby.
So you were giving out credit?
No, I was trying to give out credit. So I was super blessed in my early 20s that my cubato at the time got me a job at a mortgage company, and it was amazing. Made tons of money at a time that I probably didn't deserve to. Learned a lot and was surrounded by all these amazing sales leaders, marketers, business managers, corporate environment when I definitely didn't qualify to be there. I got an MBA for free, and they paid me. Yeah, I didn't deserve that either. And then I set off to start my own mortgage company during the financial crisis of 2008, which was probably not the best business plan. I found myself helping my clients fix their credit issues more than I was giving them loans during the crisis. So I ended up just dropping my mortgage business entirely. I started a credit repair company, and that was it. And we took off for years. We grew to 45 states, built a call center, helped more than 100,000 clients over the course of a little bit more than a decade. And as a result of growing that company, I got pretty good at this Google stuff, you could say. And we spent
the Google.
And from there, I had a few friends ask me for help with their businesses. They wanted to grow online, and they were wondering how we were so blessed to have all this business. And I took on a couple of clients by mistake, literally just friends of mine. They were like, "Hey, I'll pay you to do this." And I was like, "Oh wow, this is a cool business. I get to do what I already like doing, which is marketing for other businesses." And I had the free time. And by mistake, a marketing agency was created. Those clients then started asking me to do their social media, and I refused to do it. And they would say, "Well, I see your social media is awesome. What a nice compliment. Just do it for me. I don't want to do this." So we started a social media division. We started an email marketing channel along with all of our Google channels, and now we're a full-fledged online marketing agency with clients all over. We've got clients in the UK, Canada, Metro Boston, a bunch in North Carolina and Florida, and now I own a marketing agency too. No business plans for either businesses. They were complete spin-offs of previous things I was pursuing, and I guess that's like business 101. You plan, God laughs, and I'm just super blessed, and we're having a good time.
That's amazing. You said something about Google. Talk to me about, I know a little story about you and Google.
Yeah.
So share this. You got to share this.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, and I guess it's kind of funny, right? when I was in the mortgage business, I remember the company I was working for at the time made me the first account executive to work in their internet channel in the whole company. It was like an experiment. And I had had a little experience working internet leads in a previous company I worked for, which was a real estate agency here in Boston. And it was a new thing back then. You're talking like early 2000s, the idea of generating leads from the internet, it was still new, which sounds almost insane right now, where everything is so internet-based. But, you know, we got really good at buying marketing offline for our branches. So long story short, my dad owned a restaurant in Dorchester, right? Overnight, 24-hour pizzeria. And I remember things were slow. Like, you know, it was slow. You know, it was like business wasn't as good as my dad wanted it to be, always. You know, it was never good enough. And I remember at the time we listed his business on, this was before Google My Business, it was Google Maps. And I had actually gotten really good at ranking my own company number one in the Metro Boston area. And I was like, oh, what the heck, I'll do this for my dad's store. This will be cool. He'll get some customers from Google. And it worked, right? We were ranking number one. We built out a website. We did a whole Google Maps thing, and it was phenomenal. And this was before the competition was super, super heavy. So then I had this thought. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, he's open all night. He can be anywhere in Boston in like 10 minutes. There's no traffic at 3 o'clock in the morning. He can deliver pizza anywhere. I'm like, why not have him be everywhere in Boston, you know, or marketed everywhere in Boston? So just as a gag, it was literally like a joke. I'm like, I was bored on my computer. I'm like, let's give this a shot. So what I did at the time was I bought 25 virtual phone numbers that all forwarded to the magazine. And I set up 25 Google Maps listings for the store. So every town, every neighborhood, every town in Metro Boston had a listing for the store. I did this and I kind of forgot about it. I didn't think of it. I was like, yeah, whatever. We'll see what happens. I go into work on a Monday, and my office was directly next door to my dad's restaurant. My dad shows up around 7 o'clock in the evening. I go next door to kind of, shoot the shit with him, you could say. And I was like, hey, Dad, posita nedlya this weekend. It was always the first thing I would always ask. Posita nedlya, how was work? And he just had this look on his face. And I remember the way he was holding his cigarette, he looked at me and he had like a half a wink in his eyes, like he had just won the lottery.
Yeah, jackpot.
Yeah, he was like, I'm back.
Wait till you hear this.
I'm back. Like the glory days are here upon
So
us.
he's back, baby. He's back.
And he looked at me, he's like, "Lísame τα τηλέφωνα." I was like, what? He's like, we took the phones off the hook. Okay, he took the phones off the hook. Like, why would you do that? He's like, I did it. He was like, the magazine was busy like crazy. It was so busy that we couldn't keep up with the orders. So we unhooked the phone lines from the phone, the phone cord from the phone. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't know what happened. Allah, didn't I tell you that this store was blessed? As my dad would always say, this store was blessed. And I was like, yeah, Dad, you're right. The store was blessed. Like, we all got to work here over the years. It truly was blessed. He's like, no. He's like, I'm telling you, it's more blessed than that, And he was telling me how busy they were. And he was just losing his mind. He's like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. And I actually kind of forgot about what I did in that moment. So I was like, yeah, whatever. I kind of walked away. Then hours later, I remember just sitting there in my house thinking, what's my dad talking about? Why is he so busy? And then I remember my little experiment. And I was like, nah, that didn't work. That was a gag. I go online, I check all the listings, I look at all the traffic. Everything was on fire. The traffic was like gangbusters. Next weekend comes around, same thing happens again. Chamos. Like, he's getting orders from all over the city. He doesn't know what to do. He was understaffed. he immediately increases his pricing. He's like, the prices have gone up. And it was interesting, right? Because then I told him. I was like, Dad, I got to tell you something. What I did. He's like, I did this thing on Google. He's like, what? On Google? Like he thought Google was a myth.
Yeah.
Like it was like a joke. Like Google. No serious business person is going to do anything with anything called Google.
Right.
And when he figured out what we did, he was like, he couldn't believe it. Like my dad was old school, and like I'd never met a bigger fan of Google in my whole life. Like he talked about it, and then the best was like he was totally into the idea, and then the best part was like later on he would like give me advice. He'd be like, like my own business. Yeah. And I'd be like, oh, this is good. He's like, to prosegis to Google. He's like, to prosegis. I'm like, what? I go, are you really giving me Google advice? I go, you're not even part of any of this. I go, you're just reaping the rewards of my diabolical little scheme in my 20s. I go, and you're basically my business coach, my online business coach. And it was a huge blessing. And that's where I realized, I'm like, man, if I could do this for this little pizzeria in Dorchester that's working all night, that nobody knows about, and we can blow up a business, like really crush it. Like we could do this with any business. Yeah. And that's where it was like the aha moment, you could say. But it was like online marketing born through a pizzeria. And until this day, we're still doing this stuff. I mean, we're not doing it in that way. We're buying ads, but it was that was the aha moment, you could say.
So did you take that strategy and help boost yourself? Well, or is that censored?
Yeah. No, I'll tell you what. It's it might be censored at this point, but I'll tell you, it was 15 years ago. So yeah, we had that moment at one point where I was like, wait a second. If this many people could find us online for a pizzeria, why can't I do this at this level? And at the time, Google was a lot different. Okay, so I will say this. I'll preface this by saying online marketing has changed a lot, and you could not do this today, not in this way. But back then, people really searched in the same way they used Yellow Pages, because people Googling had used Yellow Pages. Like we had Yellow Pages when we were kids. So what they would do is they would literally type in a service or a company they were looking for, and they would always do a Google search, and they would always put in the name of their town where they were, because they just assumed businesses had to be nearby.
Dorchester. Right.
100%. So I figured this out, and I was like, oh, this is like taking candy from a baby. So what we did at the time was I got in touch with some developers. Somehow, I don't even know how I found them, in India. And I posted a project. I think it was on Freelancer. In the project, I was like, I'm going to post this. This is going to be outrageous, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I did a Google search and found out the United States has about 5.5, close to 6,000 towns, boroughs, villages, neighborhoods. So if you count, like here in Boston, we have Rosendale, which is within the city of Boston. So you have to account for all of those neighborhoods within the city. So we have about 5,500 in the United States that are above, I think, like a population of 1,000, right? So some of the little ones were kind of insignificant, so we avoided them. So I literally posted a project, and I was like, I need someone to make 5,500 websites for me, which made no sense. Like, it's hard enough to make a website. It's a lot of work. But I was like, there's got to be a way where we can make a website 5,500 times. I was like, because my website in Boston is ranking number 1. Why can't I just photocopy this and do it across the United States? And someone raised their hand. Developer in India says, I think I can do this. And I remember my second son was born, Noah. And I remember we had a night nanny so my wife could sleep. And I remember she would be in the living room taking care of him, and I'd be in the kitchen up to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning on Skype calls when Skype was barely working, and we were building out this program. And the program we ultimately built was It was a system that connected over something like 250 domains that we bought, and each domain had, it was 50 domains, and each 500 domains with 100 subdomains. Long story short, we were able to build a program that if you changed one thing on one page, it would change 5,500 websites, and we did it, and we were able to build 5,500 autonomous websites in the United States.
Wow!
And I was like, this is it. This is going to work. And it worked. I mean, it worked so well that it was cheating, call it what it is. But at the time, we were just getting inquiries from all over the United States. And at the time, we were in a 600 square foot office in Dorchester. And we were 3 people on the phones, and the phones were just ringing off the hook from every part of the United States you can imagine. And that's how we grew the company. Eventually that stopped working. The algorithms changed, and you can't have duplicate content. And we moved away from it. We moved to more traditional methods, of course, white hat SEO, as we call it. And that worked fine too. And we continued to grow. We grew to more than 90 people. We hit the Inc. 5000 list 3 times because our growth was so fast. But all that was the birth of all of that came from this experiment I did for my dad. And the best part was my dad knew it, and he would take credit for it. He'd be like, "Είδε τι κάνετε εκεί στο key credit." He goes, "Αυτό το μαγαζί ευλόγησε και εσάς." He would like always wink at me, but he almost we would joke about this. And that was kind of the birth of Google marketing for me through these experiments.
Wow. So that's what you're doing now. You're helping other people with their search engine, marketing, all that stuff from everything you learned with this.
Yeah, primarily I would say our core lead generation method is Google marketing. And that's typically split up in 3 parts. There's Google Ads, there's the organic search, and there's the Google My Business. So there's 3 parts to it, but we'll hit all 3 parts for lead generation, where we'll use social media for clients as more of a way to create brand recognition and stay top of mind.
Okay. Awesome. Shoosh, that was a great story.
It's fun.
I mean, I know I've heard it before, but hearing it again, it gets better every time.
Thanks, man.
It gets better every time. Talk to me about growing up. Were you always into these kind of things? Were you always around business as a kid, or you just woke up one day and you're like, I'm going to build a company?
I think this is a Greek thing, by the way. Okay, so in our community, so many people are like, the idea of entrepreneur is almost kind of played out in our community because for the most part, I'd say 80-90% of people are self-employed.
Yeah.
I think we have a certain, I don't know, call it an ego, like a Greek ego, I'm not working for this guy. I'm going to make my own thing,
Yeah.
So I don't ever remember waking up and saying, I'm going to start a business or I'm going to make a business plan. In my family, it was similar to your family. My dad he owned a business. That's what you did. Mm-hmm. And when I was a kid, my dad owned donut shops. He had a provisions company. He just always had a business. It's funny because I remember my elementary school age, we'd moved out to Norwood, and we were in this super regular American suburban neighborhood at the time. And I remember all the kids, their dads had professions. Everyone had a profession.
Yeah.
What's your dad do? Oh, he's an electrician. What's your dad do? He's a lawyer. And then people would ask me what my dad did, and I kind of didn't know. I was like, I don't know. He's got these magazia. Don't you guys have magazia? Isn't that? Don't you all have donut shops? And I remember one time I asked them. I was like, hey, Dad. I was like, them mulas, these kids, they keep asking me, what my dad does. Do I tell them you're a donut baker? Because you don't bake the donuts. I never saw my dad make donuts. Yeah. I'm starting to wonder if he even knew how to do it, right? And I was like, how do I describe you. He's like, I'm a businessman. Tell them I'm a businessman. I was like, a businessman? I go, that's what I'll tell them.
There you go.
I remember the kids asking me, what does your dad do? I'm like, he's a businessman. And they'd be like, what? What does he do? I'm like, I don't know. Not quite sure. I'm not sure what he does there. He counts the money mostly. Like, that's actually the only thing I saw him do at the store. Like, count the money when there was and he was really good at it. Like, he could count money.
Oh, bro, it's a Greek thing, I'm telling you. I've seen this before with, like, Greeks that own their shops, and at the end of the day, they just go to the register, they just go to feast, they're just, like, organizing it all, putting it in, like, a coffee jar. They take the cash, they stuff it in a Folgers coffee jar and call it a day.
Unbelievable.
And then bury it somewhere.
A feeling of satisfaction, like you worked all day long, and the fruits of your labor are physically in front of you. You're not waiting for a direct deposit.
Yeah, now you just get thermal slips that say you're going to get money in 3 days.
Yeah. You're like, oh, great, I got a text. I'm expecting a deposit. Let's hope the ACH hits. Lame.
Yeah. There's nothing like collecting the paper cash and counting it at the end of the day. And then, like, if you got, like, someone's in there watching you, just slip them a hey, like, go buy yourself something if you had a good day.
I remember in high school, Tony, luckily the statute of limitations is over, so I don't think I'd get in trouble. I remember leaving the store. It was an overnight store, of course, and I remember leaving the store at 6 o'clock in the morning, driving back to Norwood to get home, and just down here on 1A, I fell asleep on the wheel, right? Fell asleep on the wheel. I was exhausted. I was working all night. I was like 16 years old, right? Because that's normal. Yeah. And I torpedoed my uncle's Ford Thunderbird into a huge steel pole, flipped my car over, almost died. Like, thank you, Panagia, I'm still here, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember in the hospital, the cop comes in to interview me, and I still had my T-shirt on, Regal Cafe. I had my T-shirt on from the Magazi, covered in sauce, like, you know, flour, grease, ketchup. And he comes in, he's like, where were you coming from? And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I was coming from work. He's like, you mean to tell me you were working all night? He's like, where were you working? I was like, right here. And I pointed to my shirt. I was like, right here, Regal. I go in Dorchester. He's like, you were working all night. You're 16 years old. Yeah. I was like, yeah. Like
that's normal.
I'm like,
don't all teenagers do this?
I'm like, how are you gonna get money to go to a club? Like, you got to work at the Magazi, right? Yeah. So I remember. He goes, okay, fine. He's taking notes and everything. And he totally didn't believe me. And I remember him saying, by the way, we found something in your clothes. And I was like, what'd you find in my clothes? He's like, well, you had a bag. I was like, what kind of bag? He's like, it was a paper bag full of cash. I was like, yeah, of course. He's like, there was a couple of $1,000 in cash in that bag. I was like, yeah, that's from the register. Yeah. He's like, the what? I was like, that's the money at the end of the shift. I counted out. I'm bringing it home. And he's like, I remember he goes, you're bringing it home? He goes, shouldn't it go to the bank? I was like, it is. I'm giving it to my mom. I go, she's the bank. And he didn't believe me. And I was like, you could see, it's in a sub bag. It said on the bag, if you remember the old sub bag, submarine.
Yeah, Hero Submarines, the white one with the
the white one.
Yeah.
I was like, it was in there, rolled up. I was like, and I didn't think anything of it. Yeah. I was like, don't all kids work at their parents' stores and
bring home $2,000 a night?
Yeah, and pretend to be the manager and get to cash out the register at the end of the night? Doesn't that make total sense? So yeah, that was like the entrepreneurial upbringing, which I'm pretty sure is 90% of our community.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I agree. Without doing the research, I agree with that number. All right, so what's...
Unverified.
Yeah, unverified information that we're running with. We're calling it 90%.
Yeah.
All right, all this growing up in the family business, and what's one lesson you learned on that journey? Growing up as a kid through your dad's business?
I mean, it was endless lessons.
Yeah.
Right? Actually, I think the biggest thing I got, and this is a little specific, right? But, you know, my dad's store was an overnight store. So at 2:01, if anyone is listening to this from Boston, Boston is a special city because at exactly 2 a.m., the city shuts down. And people with whistles and flashlights come through the bars, and I don't know what happened to them. They're on a power trip, and they yell at you to leave. And there's an exodus of tens of thousands of Bostonians from all bars. So I remember at exactly 2:06, the store would get flooded. And like 2:06 in the morning in Dorchester, in the city of Boston, on a Friday leading into a Saturday, like these weren't families showing up to eat. These were young, drunk, intoxicated, to say the least, kids. And we would get yelled at and screamed at, and fights would break out, and it was total chaos. And at first, I would get super nervous. And then my dad taught me something. He goes, hey, don't get nervous. Go slow. Go at your pace. And the end of the night's going to come. And that's exactly what I learned. And people would yell at me and scream at me and curse at me for no other reason than they were just young kids that were drunk. And I got used to it, but that allowed me to build up a pretty insane tolerance for pressure and stress. So eventually when I did go to work in an office environment, it was funny. I remember my coworkers, they would get stressed out about anything. They'd be like, oh my God, this customer called up and their tone was just, it didn't sound favorable. And I'm like, what? I go, did they call you the F word? No, why would they do that? I'm like, oh. I go, so what are you stressed out about? Did they throw a ketchup bottle at you or anything? So you in those environments, you learn this incredible tolerance and ability to deal with stress. And I hope one day my kids will have an opportunity to go through that type of fire in probably a safer environment, by all means. But that was definitely one of the best business lessons ever, just dealing with stress, tolerating it,
That's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about where you're from in Greece. I want to talk Elion because obviously it's a special place in my heart. But as you guys all know, I love everywhere in Greece, but there's nothing like home.
There's nothing like it.
But before we get into that, I got to do a few read-offs, but I'm going to read them off live with you. And they make the possible. They make the podcast possible. So, really quickly, I want to read off a few short ads. There's this new app coming out. It's called Origins.
Oh, yeah?
And it's actually, these two Greeks came up with it. Basically, let's say you're traveling to Greece and you want to meet people. Or you're traveling anywhere in the world. You want to meet people. You program it and you say, I'm Nikitas, I'm from Boston, I'm from Kariotis, I'm from Greece, I'm from the US. And let's say one day you pack your bags and you go to Australia. You open this app, and it will show you in like GPS order, closest to you, someone who's got the exact routes as you.
Wow. That's
pretty neat.
That's badass.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, what a way to connect with people.
Yeah.
I need this thing.
It's not ready yet, but maybe by the time you're listening to this, it is ready.
Let's go Origins.
It's coming out pretty soon. Origins app. Go on Instagram and follow Origins app. You can connect with people that have the same roots as you. You program it like I just explained. And look, for someone like me that's always traveling, it's pretty neat to meet some. Maybe I'll run into Kalimians everywhere now.
Yeah, I love it.
And Kalamatia, how do you say it in plural if you're from Kalamata? Kalamatianes?
Kalamatiani?
Kalamatiani.
For you Kalamatiani, you will have to correct this here.
Up next, we have Klosti. Klosti makes unique gifts for women, men, and children. All products are handmade locally in Greece. So check them out. You go to @Klosti Handmade or Klosti.com. Kastra Elion Vodka. You into vodka?
Oh, I'm into vodka.
Yeah?
Where are the martinis?
I know. Next episode, I gotta set that up. Dude. It's a Greek premium sipping vodka made from Greek olives and grains. Head over to KastraElion.com and try for yourself. Must be 21 and over.
Okay.
Well, we qualify, right?
Yeah, we definitely qualified.
I
think I qualified at 16, being a Greek here in Boston.
Yeah.
You know who you are, you promoters.
And then really quickly, one plug on the site. If a Greek with ancestry and you're not a citizen, head over to greece-media.com and they help you out getting your citizenship. It's greece-media.com/Greek citizenship. It takes 2 minutes to fill out a form, and the consultation will set you up and get you started.
Can we talk about this for a second?
Yeah.
This is the service that the world needs, okay? I went through this process of becoming a Greek citizen a few years ago, and it was absolutely excruciating. Luckily enough, I'm stupid enough to not quit, but 99% of people that I've told they should become citizens that tried to do it on their own just quit.
Yeah.
They just dropped it. Like, this service is an actual godsend.
You need someone to do it for you. And I'm not just saying that. You truly do, because every story I hear from someone who has tried it in the past, I started it, I was ambitious, and then communication broke out, they didn't give me an appointment, and I quit. That's everyone's story. Like this, okay, yeah, you're going to pay a little bit, but all you have to do is supply your documents, and someone does the running around for you.
Wait, listen, you're going to pay a little bit. We have Greek Americans paying for, we're not exactly the cheapest culture. We have a lot of shiny things in the Greek American culture that we don't need. This is nothing. Yeah. This is awesome, and I love it.
And then last but not least, if you're heading to Greece and you need to book any tours, and I mean any tours, catamaran tours, cooking courses, you need to book your ferry to Kalymnos, you need to book your flight to Mykonos, you can do that all on greece-media.com. Those are the plugs.
Awesome plugs.
All right, let's get back to the show. And speaking of a ferry to Kalymnos, see what I did there?
Patrida. Wow. So,
tell me about, obviously, you're full Kalymnian.
3/4.
3/4.
3/4.
All right, I'm only half.
You're only
I'm
half.
only half.
Well, I'm more qualified than you on this topic, evidently.
You have more sponges around your neck. I took this picture. I was in Sedimos once. But the last time I was in Sedimos, me and a friend, we got on a boat, went there, we spent the day together, and we saw the guy that was selling sponges. And he had like one that was set up like a big necklace of sponges. Wow. And she goes, put this on for a picture. So all I'm wearing is just my bathing suit, and I put this thing on, and it's just like this huge like T-Pain chain, but it's made of sponges.
Did you bring it back here?
No, I never bought it.
You wear it at all the podcast interviews. Hundreds.
So I took this picture in like this yogi position, and then you just see these orange, yellow sponges around my neck.
It's funny, right? Because, I think the whole world takes for granted sponge, right? Kalymnos was at one point the wealthiest island in all of Greece. Yeah. And in fact, a lot of people don't realize this is Kalymnos has the highest percentage of neoclassic architecture in all of Greece by far. Like walking through the streets of Pothia, if you're, for us, that maybe we've been going there since we were little kids, we kind of take things for granted. I'll go to Mykonos instead, or some BS, but like anytime I brought somebody that was not from Greece to Kalymnos, they wanted to stay. Yeah. I brought my wife to Kalymnos. My wife is from here. I'm Americanida, okay? Don't hate. I brought my Americanida to Kalymnos, and the first thing she told me was, this is the prettiest place I've been to in Greece. Kalymnos is absolutely one of the most enchanting, beautiful, stunning places in Greece. And it doesn't get the credit it deserves. And especially if you are into architecture, it's stunning. You walk the Stena and you see the way the homes are taken care of, the neoclassic architecture that really in Athens you'll only find in neighborhoods like Plaka to that extent. So if you are into the architecture that you'll find in certain parts of the Kendro of Athens, and you want to see that in abundance, Kalymnos is the place to be. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of pride for Kalymnos. I haven't spent a lot of time there, but I've spent my whole life there, if that makes sense. Yeah. My mother and father were both born there. My mother came here at 16 years old, and surrounded herself in the same community that you're from in Rosendale, and she might as well had not even come here, right? Because everyone in her community was Greek. My father was born there, was there I think until 9 or 10, and then went to Ko, which was basically across the street.
You see it from the island.
Yeah, it's like West Roxbury to Dedham. I think it was another planet.
Separated by the sea.
But growing up, like all of our family events were strictly like when we went to a wedding or a vaftisya, the violi was there, there was always someone being shipped up here from Tarpon to play the violi, and we grew up, even the accent in our community was distinctive, and I didn't notice how distinct our Kalymnian upbringing was compared to other parts of Greece. And looking back on it, I'm like, wow, man, what a marvelous culture we had from this Nisi, and what a rich history Kalymno has. And I wish, and this goes for a lot of the Ganisa, for a lot of the Greek Americans here, we know Athena, we know Plaka, and Glyfada, and Vouliagmeni, and all the cute places, and we go to Mykonos and all this stuff. But man, if you take a trip down to the Ganisa, and you really start to hit up those Nisakia, you hit up Kalymno, you hit up Nisiro, you hit up Pserimo, and you make your way through those islands. It's unbelievable, man. Yeah. I love it.
A lot of my listeners obviously like travel information, so give me a couple of your favorite beaches on the island.
Ooh, on the island. I have a token favorite beach, and I think it's one of your favorite beaches because I've seen you post from there. And my spot there is Vlichadia.
Yeah, I was going to say that. That is my favorite spot.
We went to, we hung out in Masuri and stayed there, and I love the town there. But when I went to Vlichadia, it was magic. Like and the local had a local, actually our taxidzi, shout out to Thoma from Kalymno, the taxidzi. He explained to me the difference in Vlichadia. So this beach is basically split up in two parts, the sandy side and the rocky side. Mm-hmm. And Thoma explained to me that the rocky side is where all the Kalymni from Australia hang. The Kalymnian Americans are far few in between, so we don't even get a category. Yeah, we don't even count. Like we're like nothing. And then the sandy side, which I didn't know, and I'm wondering if there's truth to this. The sandy side were the Kalymnians that were from France, Gallo Kalymni.
Okay,
and they hang on that side. So there's a segregation of Australians and French. And they have their own spots. And then the Americans, we just go back and forth between one side of the beach.
I had a completely different look at it.
Okay.
Completely uneducated. This is just my unresearched take on it.
Yeah.
Is that the sandy side is where you go when you're like 8 years old with your family. And then when you're 16, 18, you start to become an adult, you make your way to the rocky side where there's some music playing, they got the bar. That's how I always look at it.
Why, you didn't go to bars when you were 8?
Not till 9.
Not till your theory might be right too. Yeah,
because I always looked at it, I'm like, that's the cool side. Wow, why don't we go to that side? Why don't we go to that side?
When you're 8, you go to.
But now I don't go to the sandy side at all. When I go, I'm just on the rocky side. I feel like there's a similar type of people there, age-wise. There's the nice cafeteria, the bar. The people there are awesome. They run the bar.
How about Pserimo? So actually, one of my yayades are from Pserimo. So of the 8 houses that were there, a couple of them are in the family. Okay. But we really never gave the Pserimo side of our family their own label. They're basically from Kalymno, right? Because Pserimo is a spinoff of Kalymno. There's just not enough houses. Right. What did you think of Pserimo?
Pserimo to me is just one nice sandy beach.
Nice sandy beach.
That's what I knew it as a kid. Okay, we're going there to go lay on that sandy beach all day.
So
I never went into the island and explored.
we rented a.
Is there paths to go into it, or is it just what you see on the coast?
It's pretty much just what you see on the coast.
Okay.
There is another side of the island, and let's assume this is true. Last year we rented a boat. Shout out to Arjon Yachting in Go. They did a great job. We rented a boat for my 40th birthday and went out to Pserimo. The Limani was so busy we couldn't actually get into Pserimo. But we went to the other side of the island, and by far the prettiest waters I've seen. The only waters that I've seen rival that were the waters in Zakynthos. I was shocked at how blue they were, and there was this crazy yacht just hanging out in this area of Pserimo, and my captain, Captain Michel, a Calimanian African, by the way, grew up in Africa. He was telling us how the previous year, Jeff Bezos was in his yacht and met up with Bill Gates in his yacht off the coast of Pserimo and hung out in Pserimo. So shout out to Pserimo.
There you go. Pserimo. Put it on your list. And if you take a boat tour, they'll even stop for a swim. Have you been by is it Plati? Is the little strip?
Yeah.
I guess, that's uninhabited, so if you're trying to rack up. So I've always tried to get this. I'm trying to build the list of how many islands I can get to. An island like that, you can't put on your list, right?
Why not?
Can you?
Plati.
I never stepped on it. I swam at it. Because the boat stops, you jump off, you get back on the boat.
I guess so. And the population is zero there
right
it's
now? Zero. It's an uninhabited island.
But up until a couple years ago, there was an Italian couple that had built a house there and a restaurant. And they were living there full time until supposedly someone died, either the husband or the wife, and then they abandoned it. So there's a house there.
Okay.
But no one's living there now.
Have you been to the other tiny island, Nera?
No.
On the other side?
Mm-mm.
There's a tiny island on the Vlichadia side of the island. And not near Vlichadia, but like on that side. And we stopped on a boat tour that took us from like Nikitas all the way to Vathi. And they took us to Nera. And there's literally a church.
Was it a pirate boat?
No, this guy, it fits like 8 of us. It was just a small boat. We hired him. He took us around. Because we want to go see the swing set in Vathi. Have you seen the swing set?
No.
Yeah, there's one that hangs off the mountain and basically swings floating over water.
Wow.
Yeah, so all the photo ups and everything.
Oh, I need to see this.
So Nera, when you dock, there is somewhere to dock. There's a church, and there's just one little shack at the dock. And that's it. So another uninhabited. Nobody lives on the island.
That's so cool.
Yeah. All right, aside from Kalymnos, give me your 3 favorite islands.
3 favorite islands. Number 1, which is probably not that common, aside from Kalymnos, and I won't even count Go because we spend our summers there mostly,
category.
Right? Same thing, right? Patmos.
Okay.
Patmos for me was the classiest of every island.
Did you see the cave?
Yes. And I got a great story about that. So, Patmos, number 1, Paro, number 2, it was stunning. In number 3, what's my number 3? I'd say Kriti. I know people have Kriti high up, but
it's high up, but it's so big that when I would say it's like 4 islands. You know what?
It's like 4 islands.
Yeah, you can't go there and say I want to go see all of Crete. That's just not normal.
No.
It's like wider than the country of Greece.
What about you? You've been to every island. What's your top 3?
I'm at 40.
You're at 40.
I'm at 40 islands.
How many islands are there?
There's 227 inhabited, and if you count rocks and tiny dots, there's like 6,000, they say.
Do you even have a top 10 list, or is it just everything is different?
It's what you're in the mood for.
What you're in the mood for.
Why am I going to split hairs?
I like that. Why do we need to rank everything?
Yeah, everybody wants rank. Who's the best at this? Who's the best basketball player? Who's the best island? Just relax.
My cousin Costa.
There's an elite category of islands. How about that?
Okay.
There's a category of these are like top.
You're special.
Top.
My cousin Costa has this word he used that I think can be applied to like top 10 lists. And he says like when we're doing things like that, it's kind of an American thing. Which is the best? Yeah. What's number 2? What's number 3? We're very much a meritocracy here. Yeah. And he always refers to stuff like that as Americañez. He goes, pali, Americañez. Shout out to Costa ellos, Americañez. One of the best words I've ever heard.
I like that. All right, so you said Baro, you said Kriti, and you said Batmo.
Batmo.
All right, what about mainland cities or villages?
Listen, I haven't toured the mainland enough. I would say, the big show is Athens, which I love. Yeah. I don't need to be in Athens in the summer. I could care less. Yeah. That's for amateurs. Yeah. But once a year, a group of guys from here and someone from the UK too, we head over to Athens and we do the Athens Marathon.
That's what you're wearing here.
That's what I'm wearing here.
Move this so they can see it.
Shout out to the Athens Authentic Marathon, the true marathon from the town of Marathon. But we go out there in the middle of November and spend a week there. And it's the big show. Athens is awesome. Yeah. The layers, the cultures from, thousands of years of different occupation, from the Romans to even the Hellenistic periods. Like, it's a freaking cool city, you know? Even recent layers, like the economic crisis has produced culture. You see some of the streets with the graffiti. So I would say mainland is definitely Athens. I have not been to Thessaloniki, but that's on the list. Number 2 from that, I would say, is Nafplion. Like, Nafplion's awesome.
Yeah, beautiful.
Not talked about. I hope more people don't discover it because it's such a gem. I mean, talk about beautiful architecture, the streets, the culture there, the modern history of the Greek nation. It's stunning. So I would say those are my top 2.
All right.
Both capitals.
What about your favorite Greek dishes?
Favorite Greek dishes. I'm gonna put it into 2 categories.
Right.
Okay. I'm gonna put in category number 1, yaya, and category number 2,
taverna.
Taverna.
What you find in the stores.
Yeah, I would say for me, and I didn't appreciate this as much when I was a kid, but now I do. When I sit down in the summer, in my chair, in my yaya and my tia bring me these tapsia of fajita, and my yaya will make something like, moussaka, for example, like cota limonata with patatules, like those simple things for me. Just the way my yaya, I would see her cut the salad, like right on the spot and dress the salad. So anything my yaya made for me in Greece is undescribably, unbelievably the best food in history for me. Okay.
Fair enough.
Now in the other category is real simple. Okay. Souvlaki to Costa, which is, what neighborhood is that? It's in Athens. Is it Psiri? It's somewhere in Athens. Like, it's the old school souvlaki. I don't put fries in it. I don't do it. He puts red sauce on it. It's unbelievable. So souvlakia are just simple. I don't need a lot with it.
Yeah.
Stipita or on the side. That's it. I don't want patates either, by the way. I don't do patates. Patates were not introduced to Greece until the 1800s. We did not have a patata in Greece ever until the 1800s, when Greece was looking for cheap fuel for their citizens. We needed cheap calories after hunger. So I will not give any credit to a Greek French fry.
Fair.
Deal. So that's my cuisine.
All right. Give me your 3 favorite desserts. If you're a dessert person.
Ekmek,
right.
Number 1. I don't know if you want to categorize that as Greek or something from the Ottoman Empire.
Close enough. That's fine.
Mikrasiatiko. What are they called? Baklava, obviously. And actually, the number 1 of all time for you Kalimnians is galaktobouriko. Galaktobouriko from Vouros in Kalimno or Michalaras is on another level. We actually took a boat to Carino this summer for my 40th birthday. And on the way out, we went and got Galactoburico and ate it on the boat as the boat was pulling away. And you would think they gave us like platinum gold, like it was the greatest thing ever. So Galactoburico is number one. Kalimnikomos.
Okay. And now, favorite coffee, is it Freddo Espresso, Freddo Cappuccino, Frappe, Ellinico?
Frappe I've cut. Frappe is gone.
Okay.
It's no longer in my vocabulary.
All right.
Well, we're becoming snobs in this now. We have to have espresso machines.
Yeah, everybody's...
Freddo Espresso, number one. Freddo Cappuccino, number two.
Okay.
Which sounds a little strange, but lately I've been doing away with a lot of the milk. So Freddo Espresso.
Yeah, no, I like Freddo Espresso. I don't usually do it as a cappuccino. So I'm with you on that. Talk to me a little bit more. I know you briefly talked about it, but I want to know more about the running team. I'll say we, group of guys back in 2016, I decided to run the Boston Marathon. A friend of mine, a mentor of mine, Costa Legris, who you know, ran the Boston Marathon and totally inspired me. I was like, holy smokes, Costa just ran the Boston Marathon. This is like the biggest thing on earth. He inspired me. I wasn't running then. I was, speed walking. And I actually hit him up and I was like, Costa, I want to run this Boston Marathon. And he's like, I'll get you in. He got me in on the St. Jude team, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I ran 2 Boston Marathons in a row because of him. And he single-handedly probably changed my life. That was like one of the greatest moments of my life. And he was able to help me facilitate this thing. I didn't realize how hard it was to get into the Boston Marathon. And he just got me in. Then I decided I'd heard about the Athens Marathon. Obviously, it's the original freaking marathon. You run from the town of Marathon. It's actually the marathon that inspired the Boston Marathon. It's the origin, right? We created everything.
We'll make everything.
We make it all.
We Greek. Come on. So I remember mentioning it to a friend of mine. Shout out to Perry Marinos. And he was like, dude, I've always wanted to run that marathon. And I was like, Perry, I got a crazy idea. Why don't we just go and do it? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm down. Let's go. And he's super fit. This guy's like triathlete, total manga. He runs like 8-minute miles. And we started training together. And then another friend of us saw we were training, a guy named Sava Ferfatsidi, and he was like, you guys are really running the Athens Marathon? I was like, Sava, you want to come? And he's like, yo, I'm down. So Sava jumps on board. Then we get another guy from around here, Peter Panagakis, and he heard we're running the Athens Marathon. He trained with us a couple days, or did a couple runs together, and he signs up for it. Then we get another guy, Bo, the token non-Greek, who I call the Phil. What do they say? Phil Hellenic.
Phil Hellene, yeah.
He's the ultimate Phil Hellene. So he signs up. So long story short, we rent the house in Plaka. We go to Athens. We have the most magical week, I think, of all of our lives, with the exception of getting married and having kids and all that stuff, right? And it was just the most magical experience. And we came back, we documented the whole thing. We come back to the United States and we wouldn't shut up about it. We just would not shut up. We annoyed the hell out of all of our friends. That's all we talked about. But what happened was, I started getting DMs and texts from friends like, yo, did you really do that? I want to do that too. That's crazy. You guys went to Athens and ran the Athens Marathon, and it was hard as hell too. It was a really hard marathon. And before you know it, another friend came with us, another friend, and we're going on our 4th or 5th of these trips. And now it's become a tradition. And I think we're 10 deep so far for the 2023 marathon. We're going to have to find a bigger house because villas in Greece are not mansions. They're We're gonna have to bring blow-up mattresses this year, but the name of our team is Greek Time Running. It's I'm gonna say it in Greek, Laikiomada. We're a team of the people. There's no formal rules. There's no kolimata. There's no, getting caught up in the formalities. It's just a group of people having fun. We make the pilgrimage every year. We eventually, God willing, hopefully our kids can continue this tradition, because I don't think my knees are going to keep up with this freaking thing. I'm not lean. I should not be running. I run like a pile of bricks. But I'm dumb enough to never quit. And yeah, 10 deep this year so far. And it was a big reason why I wanted to talk with you, Tony, because I want to spread the message about this. Because I know there's a lot of Greek Americans, there's a lot of Phil Hellenes that are into fitness. And if you have the opportunity, you do not need to raise money for the Athens Marathon. You just sign up. It's like 100 euros. It's an incredibly magical experience when you're running through a town from Marathona, and you get to the center, the kendro of a town, and there's like 1,000 Greek people, and they're cheering you on in Greek. And if imagine your yaya and papu cheering you on, imagine 100 of them.
Yeah.
Because that's what it feels like. So I think I speak for the rest of the team when I say it's a magical experience. So if you are into fitness in any way, shape, or form, and you're thinking of doing something magical, DM me, please. I want you to go. I will show you what to do, where to stay, how to sign up. I'll even give you your whole training plan. I don't want anything out of it. We're not some organized group of just regular people. Yeah. We just love this mission, and we want everyone to experience it.
I love that. So anyone listening, hit them up in the DMs and go run the Athens Marathon.
Run it.
Yeah. I was there for it last year.
I know.
I didn't, and I remember that you had messaged me as you were leaving. I was at the train station when you had texted me. I saw everyone going through the finish line. And actually, another friend of mine from New York was running it too.
Oh, sure.
And we went afterwards and had some food at it's in the Stenam city. It's right across from Dope. We went to Dope Coffee. Then we went and ate. What is it, Avli maybe?
Avli?
It's tiny little hole in the wall. Anyways.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was really
I can smell it.
Yeah. No, the food was phenomenal. And then we went back to Dope for the second coffee.
Of course.
Just run on coffee. That's amazing, man. All right. One last thing I want to ask you about is you're also now involved in nonprofits.
I'm not involved in any nonprofits. I'm a for-profit capitalist, for the record.
All right, there you
go. Well, we'll put it
bite my tongue.
Everything is for-profit.
Yeah, let's talk about this nonprofit.
So I've been blessed. Constant blessings, right? So a friend of mine, her name is Panayota, has organized a group called HBBU, Hellenic Boston Businesses Unite. And our group so far, there's kind of this thing, and we talked about this a little bit, there's kind of this thing you hear in our community which really bothers me. And you hear this every once in a while, a little too often than not, where you'll hear a Greek that's in business and they'll say, I don't do business with other ELLINAs. I don't do business with Greeks. I don't do business with Greeks. And I think that's absolutely insane. I do business with everybody. But I love doing business with Greeks. I love doing business with ELLINAs. And I think culturally, doing business, we come from a culture of merchants. We come from a culture of entrepreneurs. Our ancestors were the first people that really controlled trade in the Mediterranean. And yeah, 100%, right? So we're trying to, I would say we have a primary and a secondary mission, right? And I'm sure this will change at some point, but I would say one of our missions right now, maybe it's the primary, right? But I would say one of our missions right now is to unite Hellenic businesses and remind everybody, hey, we're here, we're innovating, people are doing really cool things, people are in incredible positions of power in the business community. We have the number one banker on the planet Jamie Dimon is a Greek. So let's be proud of our entrepreneurial history, and let's unite to help each other a lot more. So we're doing our first event June 20th at the Stockyard in Brighton, and it's just a networking event. You pay $50, you come, you get a couple of free drinks. There's going to be some often appetizers, and the idea is just to bring people together. Just connect. We don't want anything from you, but connect. And I would say that right now, that's our primary mission, to just get everyone connected. And then we have this secondary mission. And the secondary mission is philanthropy. Okay. We don't need your money. Okay. But what we really want to be is we want to be connectors. And we noticed something, and really this is just through like some of the experiences some of us have had through the church, that there are people in our community and beyond that are going through tough times. People have lost jobs, family members have passed away, people are sick, people can't make rent, whatever the issues. But this is happening in our community just as much as it's happening in every other community, right? The difference with our community is, though, we tend to be very prideful. So we will not share our hard times in public. We will not, in our community, set up a GoFundMe page. It ain't happening. Right. And in fact, there's some interesting statistics, like in Greece during the financial crisis. Petty crime went up a little bit. Violent crime barely moved, and we had at one point, an almost 50% unemployment rate for youth, right, or for young people. But what did go up? Suicide went up. Right? We have incredible pride, and we don't want to share things, but we will share our hard times with our priests. Okay? We will go to Father Vasily. We will go to Father so-and-so, right? So we can keep our dignity. So what we want to do is be able to channel or to open up channels with all the priests in, at minimum, the local metro Boston area. And as far as we could go, really, and let them know they have a channel where we can connect those priests discreetly with successful business owners that really are looking for a genuine way to give. There's business owners, anyone with success understands the law of attraction, right? The more good you put out there, the more you get, and you don't need recognition for it. You don't need anything in return. You don't want a medal. So we want to connect these business owners, these business leaders that have probably some economic success, with these people that are struggling and want to keep their dignity and don't want to make it a public thing. So we have these business owners that want to be discreet, and we have people that are suffering, typically through our church, that want to keep their dignity. And we want to basically be that connector where we connect both of these people. So when someone's suffering, they can get some help. So I would say our primary goal, wink, wink, is, hey, let's do some networking. What people don't realize when we're gathering up all of you successful entrepreneurs is really we're doing it because our secondary purpose is really our primary. And we want to be able to connect successful people where they have a way to give, and people that are in need have a way to receive, and it can be discreet, and it doesn't have to be public, and people can keep their dignity. So that's, I would say, one of the reasons we want to unite the business owners. So if you want to come and hang out with us at the Stockyard on June 20th, and you want to do it for purely networking purposes, show up, no problem. But realize this, we're scoping you out, we're watching you, and if we think you've got money and success, we may hit you up and ask you to potentially help someone that's going through a tough time discreetly with no recognition. So
love it. There you go. So you said this is June 20th?
June 20th, and you can check out our site. It's still under construction. It's hbbu.org. And if you want any information, you can DM me or just DM me.
There you go. hbbu.org, and that is on June 20th. Man, just a couple things left, and it's been a fun talk.
Yeah.
One last question on Kalinos. I have to. I forgot this question.
We always go back. They always bring me back in.
Always. There's something about It's the sponges. They just squeeze you in. What is one thing you would tell someone that's going to the island for the first time? They're not Kalimian. They're just traveling. Give me one piece of advice for someone visiting Kalinos as a tourist.
Oh, a practical advice. Try to find a taxi cab driver and try to hire them for the whole time. Don't try hailing cabs. There's no Uber. Get a good connection with a really good taxi driver. They're going to be able to show you the ropes, and they will make your trip there. Away. Yeah, I mean, really, any place with the exception of really like Vathi and like past Ariginonda is only a 10-minute drive. Yeah. So you can you're a text message away. And the thing is, Kalimnos Uber is, if they're sleeping, they've got a friend of theirs, and they will just have them pick you up. So you will be hooked up.
Awesome.
Don't drive.
And then just two more questions to go. One is about everything that you've just been working on, all this inspiring stuff. What inspires your work ethic every day?
Necessity.
Okay.
Let's be real. I've got 2 kids and a wife, and I have to provide. So as much as I'd love to pretend like I've got this great inspiration to save the world and all this stuff, I'm just like everyone else. I've got a mortgage. I've got bills. I want to take a trip to Greece and take care of my family. And I think it's a little old school, and it ain't fancy. Yeah. But that's the truth.
Last question. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
This is my sign-off question that everyone gets, and it is: what does being Greek mean to you?
It means being enlightened. Yeah, someone said this to me the other day, actually. A priest said this to me today, actually, about our group. And I actually said, Father, what should we do about people that want to come to the events that aren't Greek? I said, this is called the Hellenic Boston Businesses Unite. And he said, to be an ELLINA in ancient times was to be enlightened. He goes, so if someone is enlightened, they can come. They're a Greek. A Philhellene, as you said. So that's what it means.
Wow. That's a great answer. Speechless after that one. Okay. That's good. All right. Plug yourself. Anything you want to say, whether people can find you, find your companies.
Yeah. Anybody that wants to find me, you can find me just DM me on Instagram. Nikitas.com, DOTCOM is my Instagram handle. You can go to Nikitas.com if you need any marketing help. It will forward to my company's website, RealTop.com. And yes, I do own the Nikitas.com domain. It's another gag story for another day. It was a funny joke, expensive joke, but I own it. But yeah, hit me up at Nikitas.com for anything.
Love it. And then real quick, just one recap, RealTop one more time for us.
Yeah, if you own a business and you need help marketing that business, hit me up. I'll always do a free consultation, a free strategy session. You can go to realtop.com or just go to nikitas.com and you'll find the website. You'll see me all over it, and you can contact me anytime you want.
Love it. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Tony.
And thank you guys for listening to this episode of Grease Chats. And we will talk to you again on the next episode.
Let's do it.
We'll do it.
Awesome, brother.